Hello everybody, Rusted Ground here. Welcome back to another video. This one is a little bit different in that there isn't going to be much video to it. It's going to be more of a podcast. I don't know if I would call it a podcast, a discussion. We're going to have a conversation. Myself and Netstorm are here because we recently finished Baldur's Gate 3 after we played it for a year.
Yeah,
Our
it's been a year, yeah.
Yeah, so our playthrough lasted for a year. We played it for a year, and the playthrough on the channel is also it's been a year since I've uploaded the first video. And we wanted to have a conversation about what we thought about the game because we've played it together and we definitely have some different opinions on certain stuff and other opinions that might be the same, but we just wanted to like debrief, let's say, after we've ended the game. So we're gonna start. I have a few topics on. Sorry, you wanted to say something?
No, go ahead.
So the way this is gonna go is I have a few topics that I have written down to talk about. We can of course diverge if you want. I don't necessarily want this video to be too long, so maybe we'll try to keep it in around an hour or so, tops. I'm going to put some footage of our gameplay in the background, but you don't have to look at it. You can just listen to it if you are interested in the conversation. Now, Baldur's Gate 3 was the biggest game in 2023. It won all the prizes that they can win, or that a game can win. It is a highly praised game. The studio that made the game is one of the best gaming studios, considered to be one of the best gaming studios at the moment. They're an independent studio as well, and they got the Baldur's Gate license from Wizards of the Coast, and they worked on the game for several years. The game was in early access for, I think, 2 years, if I'm not mistaken, and you could have played the first act in early access. And this is something that Larian has done with their previous game as well. It's a method that works for them. They put their games on early access and they get all the feedback that they want to get, and then they make the game better. And in the case of Baldur's Gate 3, irrespective of what the two of us think about the game, the industry as a whole and the gaming community as a whole considers Baldur's Gate 3 to have been one of the best games, or not one of the best game of 2023. So we've started playing, I think, a month after the game came out. And the idea was at the time to just give it a month or so to get the first patches in, the first bugs fixed, let's say. And we have played 2 other Larian games before. So we went into this kind of knowing what to expect, but at the same time not knowing what to expect, I would say. Was that your impression, or
Well,
do
the
you
funny thing
remember
is,
the first time we talked about it and we decided to play it?
yeah, no, well, it certainly is pretty similar to Divinity. But I mean, it kind of exceeded. Well, depends on what the expectation, because if you're basing the expectations solely on Divinity, then it surely exceeds the expectations. But there was also a lot of hype for the game
True.
because it was in early access, because
Yeah, because
people already
they
knew about it.
marketed it very well and so on. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. They did a very
yeah.
good job with that. Okay, so
So you kind of went in with some sort of expectations of it being a good game.
yeah, yeah. And also before the two of us started playing, I actually had started a single player run myself, and I think I got to midway through the first act before we started playing, because I had the game. I had bought the game when it was in early access, so I had the game, but I didn't play it. Okay, so we started playing the game. Let's talk about the classes that we chose to play and the reasons why we chose those classes. So if you want to start.
Sure. Okay, I had a sorcerer.
Yep.
Why did I choose it? Well, I normally, I guess, choose like a ranged damage dealer.
Yeah, and you normally go
Usually
for the warlock / the mage,
yeah,
not the mage, the magic wielding
sure. Yeah.
characters. And yeah.
Yeah, and then you want to also talk about our companions, the what we chose.
Yeah, we'll get to them. We'll get to them. So
Okay.
so I chose initially. The idea was because I knew you were gonna choose a spellcaster / DPS class. I thought I would go for the healer type, so I went with a priest. But then I quickly turned into a bard.
Yeah.
And yeah, let's talk a little bit about the multi-classing in here, because you were a little bit kind of, if I remember correctly, a little bit against multi-classing. You kind of wanted to stay with the sorcerer. And then we've had a few conversations, and then you also said, okay, I'll try a multi-class.
I wasn't against the concept of the multi-class. I was a bit against how that would impact the gameplay. Gameplay, when I'm especially referring to combat. Because again, if I were to go with a ranged mage type character, there weren't that many options to multi-class and still keep that same, I don't know, fantasy.
Okay.
Yes, in the end, I multi-classed, like I think the last two or three levels, I guess, into Warlock. But I think that was mostly it because anything else didn't really make sense, at least for me. I'm sure there are multiple builds out there that can, but even if, of course, you can do, and I think we talked about this, and there was like this thing online that you could do sorcerer with a, I don't know, a paladin sort of. I think that's what was one of the recommended multi-class builds. Or cleric with. I don't quite remember. It was a long time ago when we were talking about this.
Yeah, I don't remember.
And
I distinctly remember the fact that there was the option to have a sorcerer with a warlock, and then if you wanted, you could also add a warrior in there just for some extra things. But that would have been really min maxing, and we didn't want to go there.
No, but I remember like there were these recommended builds or whatever, and the issue with them would have been okay, but it will no longer play as a ranged mage magic wielder type. It would be more like a melee / magic sometimes. I don't know. It just sounded weird. I don't know if it was. We didn't actually play it that way, so I don't know how it would have ended up. But that was my reasoning there.
Yeah. And I multiclassed into Bard, mostly because I was kind of thinking, well, I'm going to be the guy that talks to people most of the times. And Bards are very good because they have charisma proficiencies and stuff like that. And they would be very good at doing that and maybe unlocking more dialogue, which ended up to be true in certain cases. I mean, we've had a few bosses that we've managed to defeat without even fighting because we had a bard. But as we played through the game, we kind of also had moments where you took over the conversation because
we had in that regard, I think we had like similar stats because sorcerer was also based on charisma. So yeah, for the non-combat part, I think that was we didn't min-max that. I mean, we both went for the same.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and then you chose to be a tiefling. Do you remember why you chose that race?
No, I mean it was just on looks. I think
it just looked good. Yeah. Yeah, I remember I chose mine because it just I was kind of the same. I wanted a character that looks a little bit like me, so I chose the chubby, fat dwarf. But yeah, and as we progressed through the game, I kind of realized that I like Bard to me. I don't know if they fixed it or if they changed it in the meantime with other patches, but especially in the first act, the Bard class had a lot of. It seemed like it was a little bit overpowered in certain areas, especially with the fact that they had certain dialogues that only open up if you have a bard in your party. And then of course in Act 2, when I think we've had two of the Thorn family bosses that we defeated just by talking to them. The
Yeah.
guy in the bar, remember the guy that I had to drink with and I had to pass a bunch of checks,
Yeah.
and we killed him. And then the
The
guy,
doctor, I think.
the
The doctor.
the doctor, yes, exactly, the surgeon,
Yeah.
exactly. So that option doesn't show up if you're not a bard, or if you don't have a bard in your party and you're talking to the character as a bard. So yeah, in that regard, I think the bard class is a little bit overpowered, but it is what it is. So what did you like the most about your character, and the least? Let's go with that.
About how my character turned up, not the class necessarily, right?
No, I let's start with the class. Like, cause you decided on sorcerer, right?
Yeah.
Although you could
Oh,
have chosen a wizard or a
right. I don't know. We haven't played the others, so I don't necessarily know how different it would have been.
yeah,
But I did like we had the option of a lot of spells,
yeah,
so and pretty powerful most of the time.
okay,
I think you can go through a lot of fights before you need to rest. I mean,
okay.
you usually have a lot of slots, at least at towards the end of the game. I don't quite remember at the beginning if it was the
Mm-hmm.
same. But yeah, I mean, I liked all of this, let's say, flexibility.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of what you didn't like about your class, was there
I
something that kind of
think
bugged you?
I think this kind of really ties into the combat as a whole, not just my class.
Okay,
Um,
what do you mean?
well, I think there were certain spells that were way better than others, and you
Mm-hmm.
didn't really have. And here I'm going to compare it a bit to Divinity's combat.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think in Divinity you had a lot more opportunities to, again, just for the combat stage, I mean, to influence what happens, what you should use in certain situations, depending on is it raining, is there water underground, is there, I don't know, fog or whatever else, environmental stuff, but
Okay.
not just environmental, other opportunities as well. Um, Here, I didn't think it mattered that much, and again, because I quickly mm, got the what was it called, the lightning. Ah,
Yeah,
I
the
don't
the
remember the
lightning
spell.
spell. I forgot the name of it, but yeah, I know what you're
Uh,
talking about. Yeah.
yeah, okay. There wasn't really any reason to use anything else. It was really um, good at what it did. First of all, it did for a long time until I got other spells, like other level spells. It was the best damage that I could do. It
Mm-hmm.
was at the same time an AoE spell, so it was at the same damage I could do with a direct damage spell, but it was also AoE. And also, it only
Call
took one
lightning, I think it was called.
call lightning. Yes, call
Yeah.
lightning. And then at the same time, you could. It only took one spell slot,
Charge. One slot. Yeah.
and one slot, and you could use it for 10 turns, 10 times.
Well, if
If, of
you
course, you wouldn't get concentration broken, which
yes.
usually I didn't, because I kept back because I'm a ranged damage dealer, so that wasn't really an issue.
Yeah, true.
So why would I use something? Sure, there were like very specific instances where, I don't know, the enemy is lightning resistant, so okay, maybe I shouldn't use lightning,
Yeah,
but
or
usually it
lightning
didn't.
immune even, right?
Yeah,
Because if I remember correctly,
sure.
the dragon in the Act 3.
Yeah, but that was like the
Spoilers, guys.
only.
Sorry.
That was like the only instance where that happened. And besides that, there were like very small moments where I could actually say, okay, maybe I shouldn't use this. I should use something else. But for min-maxing purposes, that was the best spell I had, and I should never use anything else.
Okay.
Everything other than that, CCing, traversing like the battlefield, all of those felt very inefficient.
Okay.
As opposed to, again, Divinity, where that didn't happen. At least not with the classes that we played and the builds that we had and the spells that we had access to and so on. But at least for this, that's what it felt for me. It was, I should use this all the time. It's top damage, it's AoE, it's just one slot, and I can use it 10 rounds.
Okay, yeah. Makes sense. Yeah, and I partially agree with you there in that, yes, there are certain spells that, and I should be the one to talk. Like, I've used my entire game was based around Bless, you know.
Yeah.
So that's a thing that I think if I were to say what I didn't like about my character would be the fact that I had to use Bless. I didn't, not that I had to use Bless, but it didn't make sense to use something else.
Yeah.
Because Bless is so powerful.
Yeah.
You know?
It's especially the way you had your character, because you didn't like do a lot of damage. You were more like healer / enchanter / sometimes tank. And then yeah, why not? I mean, why not use a powerful spell that actually helps everyone else? When what would be the downside? That you can't do like a 10 damage spell or whatever, that doesn't really actually matter in the long run.
Yeah, so I think that, for me, the thing that I did that I disliked the most about my character and my build was the fact that I couldn't do damage or meaningful damage, right? But at the same time, I like the fact that I was quite sturdy, because I think I had like 22 AC or something like that by the end of the game. Actually, I had 22 AC, I think, by the beginning of the second act, because
you got those legendary pieces of gear, and I think
exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah. So it's a little bit, I guess it's a little bit strange that in Divinity Original Sin, because of the way the combat and the combat system is, you do get to do more things, whereas in Baldur's Gate 3 it feels like, because they're using the D&D system, you get the impression that you have so many things to do, but does it make sense to do that, do certain things as opposed to other things?
Yeah, well, I haven't. I mean, I barely tried D&D, so I couldn't say. But okay, so of course they keep the same spells, but do they keep like the same roles for them? As in, are the rules the same? Like Call Lightning does a 2D or whatever.
I don't know D&D that much either, so I don't even know if Call Lightning is a spell in D&D.
Okay. Okay, because I could have I would understand if they had to, or whatever, they decided that they need to keep all of this, and then this is what just came out. But otherwise, there were a lot of ways they could have actually kind of leveled the playing field between spells and abilities, right? Because you can just make Call Lightning not do as much damage, or you can make it not last for 10 rounds. Maybe it only lasts for 3 rounds, or I don't know, whatever else. There are
Okay, so sorry. Look, I'm just looking. I'm just looking now. So Call Lightning is a D&D spell, and it does the same thing basically. It says you do a cylinder. A storm cloud appears in the shape of a cylinder that is 10 feet tall and 60 feet in radius, centered on a point you can see 100 feet directly above you. The spell, blah 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 blah. When you cast the spell, choose a point you can see in range. A bolt of lightning flashes down from the cloud to that point. The creature takes 3d10 lightning damage on a failed save, or half as much on a successful save. And then on each of your turns until the spell ends, you can use your action to call down lightning on this way again.
Yeah,
so
it's exactly the same implementation.
Yeah, exactly the same implementation. Yeah, and it says here that it lasts for 10 minutes, whereas in Baldur's Gate it lasted for 10 turns.
10 rounds.
So yeah.
Yeah, so it's that. So that's why I'm guessing that this is why it ended up this way, because they kept the exact same rules for the from D&D.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, again, I would believe, because again in Divinity they did a much better job at this, creating a equilibrium between all of these spells and be able to actually give you options on what you could do and try new things out and whatever, take advantage of opportunities, not just use that one spell that you know is going to do the best.
Yes, true.
And cost the less resources.
True. All right, so that's in terms of our characters, but we also had a bunch of non-playing characters or party members that we could recruit. Same as in Divinity Original Sin 2, it's a thing that Larian likes to do. Put some characters in there that you can either recruit or play as if you decide to do that. And we actually ended up recruiting most of them, like the good ones, let's say. Because there are a few, one or two, I believe, that
depending on your choices.
Exactly. Yeah. So, which characters did we go for, and which characters did we use the most?
Well, I mean, I used for most of the game. I used Karlach.
Yeah.
But
you spec'd her as a barbarian.
Yeah.
Which was her spec anyway.
Yeah. Well, it kind of makes sense to. I know this kind of gives you like more replayability or whatever, more variability on how you want to play the game, but to me it kind of makes sense for their whatever classes to be in sync with their stories. So I don't know, because for example, what's her name, the
Shadowheart, Lae'zel?
No,
Jaheira?
later on, Jaheira, yeah. I mean, she didn't really make a lot of sense not being a druid.
Yes, you're right. We spec'd her as a monk, and it was weird.
It's weird because she has all of the story about nature and about all of her backstory, what she did before and who she's talking to, and it kept coming up and up again, because for most of them it didn't. Most of them you had like, Karlach, for example, you learn of her backstory, and then it just, you don't meet a lot of new people in the game from her past.
Yeah.
But Jaheira was different. And again, it came back again as she was a druid, and she wasn't a druid for us. She was a monk. Whatever.
So do you like the fact that you can respec your characters in whatever spec you want, or would you have preferred for you to be like the game to not allow you to spec them, to have them as a certain class?
I mean, if you don't want to use the option, don't use it, and I wouldn't use it. But
okay,
whatever. If maybe somebody else does.
Yeah. Okay, so you used Karlach, and I tried to be a little bit more, to diversify a little bit more. Why did you use Karlach? What was the reason you decided to use Karlach in 90% of the time?
Okay, so I think this is kind of related to the fact that I don't really enjoy controlling more than one character.
Okay.
In any game, and I'm Divinity, because again it was the same thing. also board games, or when I play board games, I don't like that multiple board games do this type of stuff that where you, because they're mostly not some of them are meant for 4 people.
Yep.
When you play less than 4 people, somebody has to control more than one character,
Yeah.
and I don't like that. It kind of takes me out of the. I don't know. I want to care about my character, about what his story is, how he should react, what his spells are, how he's progressing, and so on. Having
Mm-hmm.
more than one kind of, I don't know, prevents that for me. So I kind of chose Karlak because, at least for the combat part, she's just very basic, right? I mean, you don't have
Okay.
a lot of stuff to do.
Yeah.
You go there and you hit, and then maybe you can hit again, and that's your turn.
And you rage, and that's it.
And you basically you rage. So yeah. So I think that was most of it. Why? But I
Mm-hmm.
also like the character. So I like the
Mm-hmm.
story. I like the character, and and also she was very powerful, especially in the beginning
Yeah.
of the game. As I'm comparing it to our own characters. So at the beginning, she would do a lot of damage.
Yeah. True.
Later
Okay.
on, maybe it was a bit more leveled, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So that was basically my reasoning, I guess.
Okay. I chose. Well, I played a lot with Shadowheart and Lae'zel as my main companions, and we've kind of ignored Astarion and Will. Well, Will not so much, but Astarion and oh my god, what's it? Gale. Astarion and Gale for us in our playthrough were just characters that didn't really matter, right?
Especially Gale, yeah.
Especially Gale, yeah, we didn't get attached. And it's funny because like I've seen online, Gale is one of the characters that people like a lot. We've seen the statistics right from Larian, and if I remember correctly, Gale
Well,
is in the top 3 companions.
this connects to what I said earlier, probably because it's he was a sorcerer, right?
Yes,
So
true.
you could take him as a sorcerer, and then you have 2 sorcerers, which again I don't see why.
Mm,
Or you could respec him, but again, that's not something I would like to do, to respec him as something completely else,
yeah,
when his whole story is that he was the lover of the
yeah,
magic
God, yeah,
goddess, whatever. And
yeah,
so why what would he be? He's now a druid. I mean, it's
yeah. Make him a warrior.
make him a warrior, yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's and it's not just that, not just the backstory. He eats magic to stay alive. He
Yes.
has a bit of magic inside him. What else could he be? Okay, he's a sorcerer. So
Yeah.
maybe I think for those reasons, I for one didn't want to take him in the party.
I think he was actually a wizard, not a sorcerer.
No. He was a sorcerer. I mean, I remember when we took him, he was exactly the same as
Let me
me.
just because he's not like you. He's not like your
Oh,
class.
yeah, you're
That's
right. It says he's a wizard. Okay, no,
he is
you're
a
right.
wizard. Yeah.
Okay, I remember he was a wizard, but I found both very similar. As in, you
Very
have the
similar. Yeah.
exact same spells and the exact same mechanics. Basically, the
Yeah.
difference was how you learn the spells.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. And the fact
Which,
that
I
yeah, a
mean,
wizard can learn all the spells that he
right,
finds
but you
in the
would need
game.
to
Yeah.
prepare them,
Yeah, yeah.
and
Yeah, yeah.
it's kind of the same thing. You're gonna
Yeah.
choose a variety of spells, and then you're gonna go with Call Lightning because why not?
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah. True. Or yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And then so I used Lae'zel and Shadowheart. We spec'd Shadowheart, or I spec'd Shadowheart as a cleric, but of a cleric of the storm, and that was mostly because of your spec, and I thought maybe it would complement your spec because you chose lightning spells and stuff like
Yeah.
that. She would have lightning spells and enablers and stuff like that, so that would make sense. And then Lae'zel is just like the warrior class, I think, in Baldur's Gate 3 from a damage output perspective, especially at the like towards the end of the game, or in Act 3, I would say. In Act 3, I think warrior are fucking crazy overpowered.
Yeah. No, and it's kind of the same with Karlak, but yes, even more damage. So just go there, hit with the sword, do a lot of damage, and repeat. At least for Lae'zel, it was, I don't know, you could attack 5 times
Yeah,
per
something
round
like
or
that. Yeah, yeah,
something like that.
exactly. Yeah, it
It
was
was insane.
crazy.
You could kill like 3 enemies in one round.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. So yeah, and we ignored Astarion also, even though like Astarion is again one of the most liked characters from a community perspective, from what I've seen online, and the fact that the voice actor that voices Astarion is the only actor from the game that has not the only there were 2 actors, but he is one of the 2 actors that have won significant prizes or very prestigious awards. Sorry, not prizes, awards. So and his performance is very well liked by the community, but we've kind of haven't really explored him. Well, we know his story and all that, but because
We
we didn't
did,
have him. Yep.
yeah. Well, we did the story for all of them in the end.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, we kind of played them without playing them all the
Yeah, but we
time.
didn't get the banter or the things that can
Sure,
happen when you have
right.
them in the party and you know encounter
I
certain NPCs
mean,
that yeah.
okay. I think you kind of got most of the banter anyway when you would go do the long rests and
The
you would
long
talk
rest.
to them. But
True.
sure, I'm sure there were moments that you would have gotten something else.
Yeah.
I liked Astarion. I liked the character. I liked the class. I would have liked playing him, but when we did play him and went into combat, he felt really weak.
Yes. True.
He, I
Compared
mean,
to the other options that we had
yes.
on the table.
I
Yeah.
mean, first of all, it was really dependent on how much light there is, if he can hide, if he cannot hide.
Mhm.
And then when he actually went and hit someone with the critical and from behind backstab, it didn't do that much damage.
Yeah.
Maybe in later levels, maybe to again even out the way we did with other classes. But when we tried them, it didn't seem like. And at that time, anyway, we kind of needed. I mean, I think there was a point. I'm not sure when that point was where uh, everything kind of shifted and the combat became a lot easier.
Yes, true. You're right. I
Because
think
at the
it was in Act
beginning,
3 when we
maybe it
kind
was a
of.
bit maybe it was a bit earlier than Act 3, maybe,
Okay.
but there were especially Act 1 and okay, a part of Act 2, um, we should be careful and choose which battles we're gonna do and how we position before the battle, how we're gonna do this, because otherwise we might, well, uh, get defeated. But from a point on, you just wouldn't care. You would just go on and it's fine. We can do this. I have all of my slots. I have everything I can need. Lae'zel can take out 3 enemies at a time.
Yeah.
Karlach can do another 2. It just was so overpowered. It didn't even matter anymore.
Yeah, yeah. No, I agree. I think in Act 3, the only fight that I remember it being difficult, or I felt it was difficult, was the fight with, what's his name? The devil. And it was just because it
Right,
was a series
Raphael.
of things. Yeah, with
Yeah,
Raphael. Yeah, it was a series of things that we needed to do,
yeah,
and we couldn't rest and we couldn't. But otherwise,
yeah.
yeah, it was pretty easy. So, would you say that Karlach is the side character that you like the most out of the ones that we have, or did you like
Yeah.
someone else, his story?
No, no.
And I mean this from both a character perspective
Right.
or in a
Yeah,
story.
it's yeah, I guess the most, but I also liked Will's storyline.
Okay.
I like Astarion as well.
Yep.
Um, Shadowheart not that much, I would say.
Okay. Wow.
Um,
Controversial.
yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's fine. They're all good. I mean, again, this is comparing between them. They, they're all good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All stories were good. I'm just, I don't know, picking my favorites here.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think I liked Karlach's story and Karlach as a character the most, but I would
Hmm.
say for me the second choice would be a toss between Shadowheart and Lae'zel. I like both of them,
Okay.
and maybe that's because I used both of them.
Yeah.
Romance. What do you think? What did you think about the romance in the game? We both had romances. One,
Yeah, I
you're a
mean,
little bit more reluctant than I am when it comes to romance in games.
I don't think. Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, I don't think I enjoy this type of thing
This
in
aspect.
the
Yep.
game. But yeah, I mean, why we explored it to see how it would go. Um, yeah, I mean, it's fine. It also seems, again, it's not my thing, so probably shouldn't express what I don't I necessarily don't find okay about it, because maybe some people actually enjoy this. But for me, if I were to like this type of thing, I would probably have found it a bit lacking. As in, okay, the romance, basically, what's the romance part? You at one point get an option for them to, or you to visit them during the night, and that's it.
Okay.
I mean, that there is no progression. Am I missing something? Was there more to this
Well,
than
technically
that?
there was with Karlak, you had your night and whatever, and then you had you went on a date with her, and
Right,
she had this thing where she told you about her like insecurities and stuff, like not
right,
just
but
I'm not just yeah.
I don't think that's only romance related. You would probably get all of more or most of that stuff through other options as well,
Hmm.
part of that speech. But um, because we got some of those types of things from other characters which we don't have romance with.
Yeah, okay.
But even so, those moments that you're mentioning were two or three in the whole game, which lasted a year.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. I guess the romance part doesn't. I mean, for the two of us at least, I don't think it doesn't make or break the game.
yeah, no, it's just,
It doesn't. Yeah, it could have it could have not happened, and it still would have been fine.
yeah. I mean, it could have not happened. It would have been fine for what it was. I felt it wasn't much. It was, again, three moments or something
Okay.
where you would get like a cutscene or some bit of dialogue, and that was it.
I felt like at the beginning of the game, the all the characters come onto your character very strongly, and all of them seem to like want to romance you, for lack of a better
Not at
word.
the beginning, but yeah, there was a point, yeah, when that kind of happened.
Exactly, and then it just everybody just kind of chills, down,
Yeah.
and that stops. All right, let's talk about the choices that we had to do in the game, because the game does offer you a series of choices, some meaningful, others not that meaningful, or maybe just gives you the impression of a choice. But the main choice that you start with is in Act 1, where you have to choose whether to save or not save the druids. What did you think about that, and how it was implemented and how it went?
I think what you just said with the impression of choice, that's a big factor in the game. I think it does this really well. You have the impression of choice a lot of times. I mean,
Okay.
every dialogue that you do, basically, you have the disillusion that what you're going to say matters
Hmm. You think it's an illusion. You don't think it actually matters.
most of the time.
Okay.
Most of the time, I think it doesn't matter. But again, it gives you the illusion that it does. Of course, there are differences. I know. I haven't. I know you watched online probably a lot more than me. Other options and what other people are saying and how their runs went. But and again, for comparing it even to any other game, I think it has a lot more uh, variety in what you can do and endings and everything else. But the impression that it gives you is the one from D&D, that you could do anything,
Mm-hmm.
right? You
Yeah.
can help this guy, or you can help the other guy, or you can kill them both, or you can just walk away. You can do whatever you want. That's at least the impression. And that what you do is going to have consequences later on. And again, it does sometimes, at least for stuff that matters, and for that they did a great job of it. But the impression is that everything that you do matters, and I don't think it does.
Okay. So about the choice of killing the druids or saving them, right?
Yeah, I think that's the main choice. Looking back through what happened and probably what other options would have had, we would have had. I think that's kind of the main option. The main, your main decision that you have to do is: are you the good guy or are you the bad guy?
Yeah.
And we basically went with the good guy most of the time.
We did, yes. Well, some
So
of
I'm
us at
guessing
least.
there is a pretty different version of how you can play the game if you play the bad guy. But other than that, I think there's pretty minor differences on what's happening. You will unlock one of the characters or the other, but not for all of them, right? I mean, I'm guessing most of them you will have whatever you do. So you would go through the same storylines. You would probably you're going to fight most of the times the same battles. So again, it doesn't actually impact the game as much. It impacts the way you look at it. It impacts the way you think you reach that point, at least the first time that you play it. Because again, if we were to play it the second time, I'm pretty sure it would be very similar.
Okay. Well, unless we decide to play on like when we go for like an evil run, and
Yeah,
some,
but
yeah.
yeah.
Okay. And if we were to talk about the 3 acts, and the structure of the 3 acts, to me it felt like when we started playing, Act 1 was clearly the very polished. We didn't really have any errors or anything. And as we started going into Act 2 and Act 3, I think we started getting a few things that were kind of like, We also had some technical issues with the game, but there was also some things in the story that were kind of like, iffy, if I remember correctly. Which act did you like the most?
That's pretty hard to say because again, we played this for a year, and I mean, Act 1 was, I don't know, 9 months ago, or
Yeah, true. Okay. Yeah, fair.
I, they didn't really feel like acts. I remember kind of in Divinity, it really felt different when you switched from one chapter to another, or
Okay.
they were still called the acts. I don't know, whatever. From one act to another. Here, I don't think I felt it the same way. Maybe Act 3 was a real. It was a bit because it came story-wise. You were in this battle after battle after battle, trying to survive, trying to whatever reach the point, the big battle, and then Act 3 is basically you end up in a city, and
Yeah, and
it's like it has this curve of okay, now there's like a bit of a pause or whatever. You have a bit of time to look at other stuff, explore the city, do some other things, not just battle it out and go trying to survive. Although of course the main story is the same, that the city is under attack, that
yeah.
there are the earthquakes and everything.
Yeah, no, I think in that regard, for me at least, the acts 1 and 2 felt a little bit more streamlined and
Or merged
structured.
together.
Yeah. And Act 3 is like you're free to do whatever you want. Good luck. And there's
Yeah.
no like real guidance on to, and there's also, I think there's more chance of missing stuff in Act 3 because
It's a huge place. You have to go and reach every nook and cranny to find everything. And
so the first thing that comes to mind for me, and spoiler alert for anyone that hasn't played it, I'm gonna talk about a bit of a spoiler here. So in Act 3, we found a secret dragon's lair, and we fought said dragon, and we killed said dragon. And we found out at the end of the game that we could have used that dragon to help us.
Well, we
And
kind of, I mean, we
and we
kind
didn't
of
need to
knew the
kill it.
story. We knew the story when we found the dragon that he was meant to be like the guardian. But when we reached, because we reached them very early in the third act,
Yeah,
we didn't actually have any option other than fight him.
exactly.
And
Whereas
if
we
we would
might
have,
have had a
if
different
yeah,
option
if we
later.
would have waited and
Yeah,
came back later, yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Which again kind of gives you the impression that every choice you do matters, and it does. I mean, you kind of stopped. It was your choice to go and explore that way. You ended up without having what you needed to convince him of joining, so you had to kill him, and then that
Yeah,
changes your story.
yeah,
In the end, it doesn't that much because it's you're going still have to go into the same battle. You just won't have another ally.
yeah, yeah. Speaking of allies and characters, is there any character in the story that kind of stood out to you or you liked a lot what they did with the character? And I'm talking about like and non-playing characters, so none of our party members and whatnot.
Right. Um, say I liked the story with the kids from the first from the druid, which from the druid's lair, and then
To do
as
it,
they
yeah, yeah,
continued, you would keep I don't know what their names are. Um,
yeah.
you would
The
keep
thieves, right?
running
The
into
little
the thieves.
thieves.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
you would keep running into them throughout the game. That was nice. Um, I kind of liked again meeting again, not sure what his name is, the blacksmith, the one that helps Karlach.
Yes, yeah, 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 yeah. He's
Um,
a tiefling as well. Yeah, yeah.
him as well. Yeah, I don't know. These come to mind right now. Oh,
Okay.
the story line, although it's like a minor and really side quest type of thing. In the third act with the necromancer. Not sure what. I'm really bad with names and memory.
The
The
necromancer.
the undead guy we found in the basement. He
Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
he put his what were they called, the ah uh, he had like three undead I don't know
Servants.
enslaved servants. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
that was, I'm not sure what his name was, but yeah. Yeah, so I mean, a lot of them are really memorable. They stick with you throughout the game. You recognize them when you re-meet them. The Dark Gnome, I think he was
Wulbren.
Wolbrin. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I liked Mizora.
Okay. Yeah.
I
Sure.
thought they did a good job with her. And yeah, she
It was
was
interesting to
interesting.
make her, yeah, to kind of sort of redeem her
Yeah,
towards the end.
yeah,
Because she was like one of the bad guys you were against, trying to fight her and her whatever. She was impeding your quests, and then
yeah,
kind of you save her and you kind of try to, and then she comes towards your side and helps you.
yeah. Exactly. But also at the same time, I think the whole option to romancer was kind of it was a little bit out of the blue and kind of strange, if I'm being honest. But yeah, anyway. What did you think about the Emperor?
Um, I think, well, he is one of the main characters of the story, right, from beginning
Yeah.
to end. I think his story was maybe a bit too much.
Hmm. In what way?
Okay, so you already gave the spoiler alert, so we can.
Well, yeah. We finished the
um,
game. We're gonna talk about yeah. It's we're already
it's
what
implied,
50
yeah.
minutes into the video. Whoever's watching now, like if yeah, we're talking
Okay,
about spoilers.
yeah. Um, so let's recap a bit of his story. So, okay, you basically have a guardian. You don't know he's the emperor or
Yeah,
she, whatever. It's like an illusion of who comes to you to help you. You only see him in visions, and he helps you not be transformed into a what are they called? The geek, the
Yeah,
mind flayers,
mind
whatever.
flayers, exactly, into a mind flare.
Okay, and then you kind of find out that he wasn't actually he's actually a mind flayer that escaped from the brain's influence, and now he kind of fights against the brain and wants you to help him to take control of the brain. But at the same time, he's actually controlling the prince of the
Githyanki?
the Githyanki, the prince of the comet or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, which he actually is keeping him on without releasing him because other doesn't matter. And at the same time, he's actually been he was. It's not the first time he actually escaped the control of the brain, right? It's the second time, and before all that, he was still a mind flayer, but he was helping out. I don't even remember who he was helping out, because they had like this. It was this cutscene. It wasn't Jahira. It was I don't even remember who he was.
He had a wife and all that. Yeah.
He had a wife and everything, and all the story that he was doing. I think sort of Robin Hood type things, stealing and helping people,
that was
whatever.
the vibe. Yeah.
But not just that. He was actually the founder of Baldur's Gate. Baldur or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
Because before he began, it was really a lot, and not sure it was needed. It was hard to follow at one point. Now that we ended it and you can look back and maybe you read something online and you can try to digest it easier. But as you were finding out stuff, it was just a lot. That's what I'm saying about the story.
Yeah.
Him as a character, fine. It's you go and as there was a bit at one point where he felt off. I remember a conversation he had with you. We both had the conversation with him as usually you do, but in separate, and you do separate choices and everything. And I remember that the conversation he had with you was a lot different, where he kind of turned against you and said he doesn't need you and he's gonna take over the world or whatever on his own.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm just a puppet. Yeah, exactly. Something
and I
like
was
that.
like, what's happening? Because up until then, he was this friend. At one point, he kind of switches to you need me. Okay, maybe you don't trust me, but I'm way better option than the brain. And together we're gonna do this. Okay, we'll find a way. And then he was all against you, and I didn't. And it doesn't make sense story-wise because at the end you still have the choice of kind of going with him, and which we did in one of the.
We tried. We tested both options. Yeah.
And he ends up a friend basically.
Yes.
And he doesn't try to take over the world. It's weird. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I agree. I found him to be an interesting character. Didn't trust him from the beginning. Don't know necessarily if that was a good thing or a bad thing. It's just the vibe that I got. And yeah, by the end of it, we saw both whatever choices that what happens when you make both choices. So yeah, I think he's an okay character myself. But what about the three baddies? What's his name? Ketheric, Gortash, and what's the assassin's name? I forgot the.
I think
Orin. Yes, yeah.
I think Gortash and Orin's is not story, but the way it was implemented was a lot better
than Ketheric.
Yeah. Because Ketheric was kind of it came out of nowhere. You would have all of these mentions, and you would read a book, or someone would say something about Ketheric. You would know something about Ketheric, but he had only his 15 minutes of fame in the game, right?
True.
He just showed up. We would battle him, and then he would die. That was his whole. that was his whole act in the game.
Yeah.
As opposed to the others where you would meet them as you go into the zone. Oren would show up from time to time.
Oren
You know
would,
you're
yeah.
you
Oren was
know
the
you would
one
meet
that was the most present. Like, yeah, I
yeah.
think. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Sorry, go
also
ahead.
Gortash, you would meet Gortash beforehand. He would give you a quest at one point.
Yeah.
You had all of this, and of course, again, the illusion of choice, and maybe you want to help Gortash take care, and then help him eliminate Warren, or help Warren eliminate Gortash, and it was a lot more involved.
Mm-hmm.
As in
Mm-hmm.
Ketheric was, and he as a character seemed very okay as a story and everything with his daughter, and the moment where he had his doubts that maybe he would not do this and not help his god but help us, whatever, it was okay, but he wasn't present. He felt rushed.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I agree. I think maybe we would have seen more of Catherick if we would have gone to the Moonrise Towers faster, or if we would have taken we wouldn't have saved the druids and we would have gone with the
Okay,
goblins. But
maybe.
I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe. I'm assuming, if I remember correctly, we did actually, when we met the Catholic, he did give us a quest or something. I'm assuming that if you go the other route, he might tell you about his daughter and he might ask you to go and get her for him or something, but I don't know.
Okay.
But yeah, Gortash and Orin definitely were more present in their respective act than Catherick was in his act, and also his ending was a little bit, I don't know, not anticlimactic necessarily, but it was a bit strange. It felt a little bit strange.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're kind of at that point. We're
Oh,
approaching
wait,
the hour
wait,
fast. Let's talk about the
sorry, just
ending. Yeah.
just one second before the ending. Here at the baddies category, it felt really weird, the encounter with the god, Kethric's god. I don't remember his name.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
It felt really awesome that you had this. So okay, you defeat Ketheric, and then his god comes again out of nowhere. I mean, you knew he was his god, but you weren't
Mer-
expecting it,
yeah,
and you have this big
Merkel is his name.
fight, and you win, and it's great.
Yeah.
And then there's no mention of it nowhere, and
Mm.
no consequence, and no nothing. You
Yeah.
just defeated a god,
Yeah.
and then you're still struggling to beat, I don't know, a few enforcers near a
Yeah.
town.
True.
It's
True.
I don't know why that was there. Maybe we just got lucky and unlocked like a secret. That's what it felt like going forward. Like we unlocked a secret type of level that usually you don't go there,
Mm.
and it shouldn't have happened most of the times.
Mm. Okay.
Yeah, because again, I remember some conversations where we were talking about how we defeated Ketheric, and we did this and we did that, and no, we defeated a god, or at
I
least
think,
whatever the apparition of the god, or whatever it was, which felt like more of an achievement than
yeah.
everything else we did.
I don't think that's the thing. For me, the way I see it is I don't think we defeated the god. I think we defeated its champion, which is like the most powerful being representing the god on whatever Earth. In
Yeah,
that regard, same as with Orin, right? Because when we fought Orin and she transformed, she didn't transform into her god. She transformed into a creature empowered by her god. But
right.
anyway, yeah, I agree. I agree with you that it was a little bit, maybe a little bit weird, and it also the fight was quite easy, if I remember correctly. I mean, ish. I might be wrong. We
Yeah,
had to
I think
save.
by that point, I think we were reaching the point where
It
we weren't
felt like we're.
that. Yeah, we were pretty overpowered, I think.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
and I'm guessing this also happened because we weren't like completionists, but we tried to do everything that there was to do.
Well, we
So
tried.
maybe
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
we ramped up the XP
a
a
lot.
lot
Yeah.
sooner than maybe the game expected to.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, the reality is the reason why we went that route, right? The reality for us too, right, is that this is the type of game that we play once. You know,
Right.
we're not. I mean, maybe we'll play it. Maybe in 5 years' time, we'll try to do it again. But it's such a long game that it's just you have to, you know, discover
Right.
as much of as possible in your first playthrough, because you don't have time to spend another 200 hours plus,
Yeah.
again, in this game, especially when you play it as a co-op. It's difficult because you have to schedule the time,
Yeah.
etc., etc., and life gets in the way. When you're on your own and you're playing single player, maybe it's easier to get into multiple playthroughs. But yeah. All right. So thoughts on the ending of the game?
I think the mm, combat, the battles that led to the ending were good, were
Hmm.
fine. I mean,
Hmm.
it felt like the ending is coming and you're gonna reach this point, and the final battle was good. I liked
Yeah.
everything about it. Um, I liked the part that after the ending, after the battle, you had that moment where you would come together again in camp and be able to talk to everyone to find out what they did, as opposed to what was in Divinity, where you just had like a
Like a little, yeah, cartoony story. Yeah.
yeah, which was stitched together based
Yeah.
on
Your choices.
certain
Yeah.
choices you had
Yeah.
made. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, actually, that entire ending, apparently that was in a patch that was after, like, a few months after the game had launched, and I think the people who've like played the game in the first month or 2 months and finished the story, they didn't get that.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, I remember that was a big thing when they released the patch. Everybody was like, "Holy moly! Okay, well, now we have like a proper ending for everybody," and so on and so forth. So yeah.
yeah. What I can say I wasn't that impressed by was the difference in the endings that we tried.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, I mean, for the endings where because we had an ending where I took over the brain, right?
Yes, you did. Yeah, we did. Yes.
That felt very, I don't know, underwhelming.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, you took over and the game is finished.
Yeah.
I was kind of hoping for something similar how Gale presented himself in the camp at the end, right? Where
Okay.
he comes and he's like this god now, and
Yeah.
he
Well,
talks about which basically you are when you take over the brain, right?
the
You
brain.
become like a
Yes.
god.
Yes.
But yeah, that wasn't there.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. I
Um,
agree with you. Um.
and also all the other because we tried all the other conversations that we had at the end. Basically, everything stayed the same,
Yes.
regardless of if we went with the prince or we went with the emperor. It was kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
The only difference I think was Lae'zel was a bit mad, but she still did the same things that she did
Yeah.
regardless.
True.
Uh,
True.
again, impression of if you only play it once, you have the impression of a lot of choices that have consequences, and at the end they don't really.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. I thought the fight at the end was good. Although again, because well, we played it on normal, but that shouldn't matter. But it was like the last part of the fight where you actually fight the brain.
Oh, that was really
Like we had
easy.
Lae'zel,
Yeah,
3 4 strikes. That's it. You know.
yeah, yeah, and it wasn't even needed. I mean, we didn't have time to get everyone there. We were all alive, and it was yeah,
I think the mechanic of having someone activate the crown, that could have caused a problem if we didn't implement that whatever tactic with invisibility and invulnerability shield. That would have been problematic.
that would have been really problematic because there were a lot of guys to fight. and that wouldn't have been a problem because we probably could take them on, but you only had like 3 rounds or 4 rounds, and that wouldn't have been enough to eliminate everyone and then go to the crown.
Yes. No, you're right. So from that perspective, yeah, mixed emotions there. I'm sure there's a bunch of people that managed to do the fight without having a globe of invulnerability or whatever. We just happened to have one and we used it because
Yeah.
it made our lives easier. All right, so to wrap this up, so we've played all of Larian's games. I mean, Divinity Original Sin 1, 2, and BG3. Which one did you like the most?
I think I think objectively, Baldur's Gate as a whole is the better game. It has it has a lot of story, it has a lot of characters, it has a lot of spells, classes, everything in it. It is, well, of course, technology evolved as well, and you have they look great. I mean, the first thing that I was impressed with was the cutscenes, where your characters appear, and
Yes.
they're moving and they're talking and whatever they're doing. Well, not talking, but
Not
whatever.
talking, but yeah, they're moving. Yeah,
Um,
exactly. And there are
um,
they're dressed as they're dressed.
they're dressed as they're dressed. They look the same way you customize them to
Yeah.
look like.
Yeah.
They have facial expressions and they look great.
Yeah.
Everything looks great. As opposed to Divinity, where that really wasn't. There's no comparison there.
Yeah.
But again, I mentioned this. I'm a bit disappointed with the combat.
Yeah.
The fact that you didn't had. I remember in Divinity, I think we played Divinity 2 times.
Yeah, we did. Yeah. Well, yeah, 1.5 times. Yeah.
1.5, yeah. I don't think we finished it, yeah.
Yeah.
And we tried like different
Specs
classes
in
and
class. Yeah.
and also the companions that you had. We tried with them different. So again, controlling 2 of them. It was um, it was just better. You could do a lot more stuff in all battles.
Yeah.
You try to find the higher ground. You would normally have some higher ground in most battles you could try to reach. You would have different types, and the multi-classing was interesting. Like that, I remember I was some kind of polymorph. I think in Divinity I had something, and that would help a lot. It had like some sort of combos with your own spells. I don't remember what was polymorph plus some sort of wizard, warlock,
Yeah.
necromancer, something. Yeah, and it would have a lot of combos for this. How you would be able to turn some surfaces into something, traverse the battleground, and then do something with those um, with the environment. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also I think also the mobs. I think that the enemies were very restricted to some types of damage.
That
It
was
didn't
the
happen
thing.
that
Yeah.
much. It didn't happen that much in Baldur's Gate.
Yeah, well, that's the thing that I personally I don't like that about the Divinity. I don't like the fact that you have to either go melee or spell, because if you try both, then you just make your life more difficult. But in saying that, both of us definitely prefer the combat system in Divinity than the one in Baldur's Gate, which is effectively D&D. Combat system. And yes, I agree with you from every aspect except the combat. For me, Baldur's Gate 3 is a way better game. The combat for me as well is like, I prefer the one in Divinity Original Sin. And hopefully we'll get a Divinity Original Sin 3 if we're lucky in the next few years, and things will evolve a bit more. But Yeah, as a whole, we have. So I was just looking here. It looks like we have 163 hours in the game. That's kind of. I thought we had more. But effectively, it was 1 year of playing this game, and that's because we played in co-op. Imagine if we would have played it in a 4-man co-op. Jesus. We wouldn't. We,
Yeah.
we would be like Act 2 by now, probably.
We would needed to add some more hours just for managing the schedule.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure, for sure. But yeah, no. Overall, yeah, it's an excellent game. I agree with everybody's sentiment that says that and considers this game to be one of the best games out there, and clearly the best CRPG on the market. And I think, yeah, Larian did a very good job. They did a very good job with Divinity Original Sin 2 as well at the time. So yeah, overall, I really enjoyed the game. But at the same time, because we invested so many hours, it's not a game that we will easily pick up again and be like, oh, I want to see what it's like to play like an evil character or the Dark Urge, or I want to see what it's like to play Astarion as Astarion or whatever,
Yeah.
So that's a little bit, it's a little bit sad. And I'm sure we have missed a lot of things, but we've also tried our best to do as many things in the game as possible. But yeah, anything else you want to add?
No, I
No?
think that covers it.
All right, cool. Well, for anyone who's still listening, thank you very much for sticking around until the end. These were our thoughts on Baldur's Gate 3 after playing it for a year and finishing the game. And yeah, thank you for watching or listening, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.
Bye.